Welcome back, everybody. The next lecture here is going to be on the common branch side chains. So we have now, at this point in the course, officially learned how to name compounds by identifying the parent carbon chain, gathering up the substituents, numbering them, and giving them the best priority in terms of lowest numbers. And then finally, we will alphabetize it in order to complete the name. Now, there are many substituents that can have common names or are different type of functionalities, and we've really looked at a lot of examples that have chloros or methyls or ethyls or propyls. But what happens when some of our substituents get a little bit more advanced? So that's what we're going to be looking at in the next couple of lectures here. So we're going to start with the common branch side chains. These are terms that you've probably come across if you've done any sort of organic chemistry and you've started learning IUPAC naming. And when we take a look at these, there's a set of 5 that are most common in undergraduate organic courses when you're learning this. And those are isopropyl, isobutyl, sec-butyl, tert-butyl, and neopentyl. So let's start with the isos. When we look at the iso groups, the isopropyl and the isobutyl, keep in mind the root names. Prop is going to mean 3 carbons and but is going to mean 4 carbons. So we learned about that in that big table during our first or second lecture there. When we take a look at the iso format, it has a splitting almost like a Y pattern. So you can see that here. This would be an isopropyl group because there are 1, 2, 3. And then this would be an isobutyl group. Notice that you go 1 carbon in and then you get to a second carbon in before the branch happens and the Y split occurs. Now, butyl, again meaning 4, that's why we have that extra carbon there. So sec and tert-butyl are other variations of butyl. And keep in mind, if you know anything about isomers, the higher the carbon count goes, the more structural isomers we can make by moving carbons around and creating, when I say different compounds, they have the same molecular formula, but we're restructuring the way that they are attached. So when we have butyl, we have a couple additional options compared to propyl, right? And then when we get to pentyl, there's actually a huge number of options, and every additional carbon we add as we go 5, 6, 7, you start to get more and more of these options. And so it no longer becomes practical to give these sort of common side chain names that we're doing here. It usually cuts off at pentyl. Neopentyl is the exception, and even some classes and textbooks have moved away from the idea of using neopentyl and just calling it its own side chain. But neopentyl is still pretty common. So sec-butyl is referring to, when we have R here, this is talking about the rest of the molecule. So anytime you see R in organic chemistry, it means rest of the molecule. So that's really the alkane. We're just not drawing it out here for the sake of space. But sec-butyl, the sec stands for a secondary position. So this would be a primary position, right? This would be a secondary position, okay? And this would also be secondary, and then this would be primary again. So this is a sec-butyl because we don't have the same split pattern that we have with the Y branching to the same extent, but we do have a secondary attachment position here, and that's where the term sec comes from. It's a secondary position that the butyl is attached to. And when we have a tertiary position, you have tert-butyl. So this would be a tertiary position that the R group is attached to, and then you've got your 3 methyl groups that sort of originate from that. Many times you'll also, now this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it, but you'll see t-butyls written like a T, right? And then here's the R group. So this isn't necessarily proper bond angle. You're not going to have them at 90 degrees like that. However, it still is very easy to see. Here's your tertiary carbon in the middle, and then you've got a methyl, and a methyl like that. So that's your tert-butyl group. Sometimes you'll see these written as s-butyl and t-butyl, especially the tert-butyl. A lot of people call it a t-butyl group. Those are just abbreviations for the sec and the tertiary, the tert. Now, the neopentyl is very similar to sort of how the isobutyl was, where we need an extra carbon here. So for neopentyl, we need 5 carbons. It's going to be 1 here, 2 at the tertiary position, and then your 3 methyls for a total of 5. So the neopentyl looks just like the tert-butyl. However, it's got an extra CH2 point of attachment here that separates it from the alkane chain when we get ready to look at the branching here. Now, the important part when you're looking at these side chains, if you practice enough, you'll start to recognize them, but you have to know with naming which are going to be alphabetized by their first letter and which are not. So it turns out that, and we'll talk about this in a second, the sec and the tert are not, but the iso and the neo will be considered when naming alphabetically. One of the other things I wanted to just mention, students tend to pick up on or see isopropyls and tert-butyls very easily, but sec-butyls and isobutyls, because they're a little bit closer to one another, students can get confused with those. So if you're really going to spend a lot of time studying these, I would especially pay attention to identifying isobutyl versus sec-butyl. You know, put them on some flashcards. Make sure, even more than flashcards, that you are practicing. Go find as many examples as you can. Certainly utilize the sources in this course and attempt to separate out sec-butyl from isobutyl. You know I'll be including examples like that when we get to the end and we do our practice. All right, so when we are naming, this is what I mentioned a minute ago, iso and neo are considered for alphabetizing purposes. However, sec and tert, or S and T, are not considered for alphabetizing. And then you see that note down there. I just remind you that the terms sec and tert are often abbreviated S and T respectively. So even if it's written as S and T, you do not do any type of alphabetizing with the sec and the tert. And that's because they're not really a descriptor name as much as they are just referencing the position at which the butyl is attached or found. And so those get dropped. However, the iso and the neo, that branching format is considered part of the name. I know this kind of seems crazy. These are the IUPAC rules that they decided on, right? So we don't get any say in it. This is basically the way that it was outlined by the chemists that decided this is how we were going to name organic compounds. So just make a note for yourself. Iso and neo will be filed under I and N when we're alphabetizing. However, the sec and the tert are not going to be. So what would those be? They're going to be under B because it's sec-butyl and tert-butyl. So B would be where they get alphabetized. So you're going to see them very often at the beginning of most of the naming, right? Because if we think about alphabetically, A, B, we're already at butyl there. So most of the time you're going to see tert-butyls and sec-butyls at the beginning of the name when you get ready for naming. That's pretty much the main point I wanted to go over there. So I've got 2 examples here to kind of drive this home, and then we'll be set with this lecture, and we'll move on to the next one where we're going to take a look at slightly more advanced side chains that get their own naming procedure instead of one of just the common names. So let's take a look at this quick. This will be a nice little exercise for naming as well as kind of looking at this sec-tert versus neo-iso type of thing. So first of all, let's number this set here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're dealing with an undecane, right? Now, just count with me real quick. I'm not going to write it out, but go in the reverse just to look at the numbers. We've got a 5 and a 6 for the substituents here. So if I go backwards, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So we don't need to worry about the reverse numbering because we want the lowest possible set of numbers. So we're going to have a 5, 6. Now, what are these groups here? So let's take a look. Well, group 5, what does this look like? I'll give you a sec to think about it. And hopefully group 6 you can easily identify here. All right, so group 5, if you took a second to think about it and pause the video, this right here, look at the pattern. You've got that Y branching, so you know you're going to have an iso, right? But how many carbons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's got to be an isobutyl. that we're dealing with. And then this is just going to be our ethyl. So how would we name this alphabetically? E for ethyl, does the I count or not? Is it a butyl? So in the case of iso, if you remember the rule from above, the I does get counted in the alphabetizing. This is important because if it was a B, the B would come before E in the alphabet, and it would be butyl that gets put in the first part of the name, right? But because it's an I, it'll be in the second part of the name because I comes after E. So then we'll say, all right, so what's our ethyl? It's a 6-ethyl, because remember, it's not by number, it's by name when we're alphabetizing. And then 5-isobutyl. And then we need our parent chain. So the parent chain we said was an undecane. There you go. That would be the name there. Now let's take a look at a similar example. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got a 5, 6 going on here again, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, because this is the same length and it's in position 5 and 6, we don't really need to count backwards again. We know we're dealing with the same sort of premise. We've got an ethyl down here in position 6. And then take a look at, that's not what I want to write there. Let's put ethyl. All right. And let's take a look at this group up here. So if we take a look at this group, what does that look like? Take a second and try to figure it out. All right, so hopefully you came to the conclusion that this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're dealing with another butyl group. And the format that we have here, it's attached at a tertiary position or has that T type of format. So we're going to be dealing with a t-butyl group or a tert-butyl group. Butyl. Okay. And when we have tert and sec, there is a dash between the T and the butyl. That's how it's usually written. So, question here is, for naming purposes, is it going to be filed under B for butyl, because that would come before the ethyl, or is it going to be filed under T for tert, because that would come after the ethyl, just like the iso did? And in the case of tert-butyl, because we're just talking about the position, the tertiary position here, the B is what we reference. So this is going to be butyl, so it would come first. So now in this case, it's going to be 5-t-butyl, 6-ethyl, and then I'm running out of space here, so I'm just going to write this underneath, but it would be all in one word, undecane. All right, so hopefully these examples were helpful in not only identifying some of these compounds as they're on the chain, but understanding how the naming process works, because a lot of students get confused with, wait, does this one get filed under butyl or tert or iso or neo? So this is a perfect example here where in one case the beginning letter was filed under what we wanted for alphabetizing, and in the other case we ignored that first letter and we went for the root chain, which was butyl here. Okay. So in the next lecture, we will take a look at some of the more advanced side chains like I was mentioning. So what happens, let's say, if we have a ethyl or a propyl side chain that also has a chloro on it or some other group, and we can't just call it propyl or ethyl, and it also doesn't have one of these common branch names. How do we go about naming something like that? So we'll take a look at that. I will see everybody in the next lecture as we continue forward with our IUPAC naming course.